My thing is, Kurt Schilling can be detestable to me, but he changed two cultures. Arizona was a losing franchise, and the Red Sox were an embarrassment. They had talent and couldn't win. Kurt Schilling can't be restricted as a Hall of Famer because you don't like his tweets.
Right.
T.O. has been at times a little detestable, but he's a Hall of Famer.
This is a no-brainer. Like, I understand we do weird things with wide receivers. They made Chris Carter wait, which I'm not just saying this because he's my friend and a coworker. That was an embarrassment. Yeah. When he retired, he had the second most touchdowns of anyone ever, and they're like, you got to wait a couple years. That's stupid. But it's also stupid when you make T.O. wait. And there was a guy that went on the ballot when T.O. went on the ballot. No one ever would have said, make him wait. They were the same guys. We can put up the numbers. They were both top 3 at their position in yards. They were both top 3 at their position in touchdowns. They both had major off-field controversies. One is Terrell Owens. Who's the other guy? No doubt Hall of Famer. None other than Brett Favre. Nobody said Favre has to wait. Favre's sending pictures of his genitals to coworkers. Favre won't mentor Aaron Rodgers. Favre is holding the Packers hostage 3 years in a row. He's orchestrating a move to New York, then out of New York into Minnesota. But everyone said, but he was so great. You got to put him in. T.O.'s doing sit-ups in the driveway and very, very mean to Jeff Garcia and Donovan McNabb. You still got to put him in the Hall of Fame. And if we're truly being fair, if you are ranking all-time wide receivers, T.O. is 2, 3, or 4, depending on your preference.
He's way up there.
If you're ranking all-time quarterbacks,
Favre ain't 2, 3, or 4.
Ain't no chance.
I'm not even.
Favre is like 6 through 10.
Dude, I could argue Rodgers is better. He's not the best Packer quarterback ever.
I would agree with you. And so one guy is higher in the pantheon of his position. They both have almost identical records. But one guy, for some reasons that we don't have to discuss at the moment, but loyal listeners and viewers probably know where I'm going with this. One guy was beloved by the media. He was everyone's good old boy. And, he throws those interceptions because he wants to win so badly. The other guy does sit-ups in a driveway, plays a Super Bowl on a flipping broken leg, and is the best player on the field. Like, wait, T.O. Wait, T.O.
No, you and I agree on this.
This is, at some point, it's got to be, how great were you? And this guy was great.
Okay, yeah, I always tell, I got to tell, stay with me, right?
Okay.
Because he's got something coming up. I want your thoughts on the marijuana boat cruise.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And the Timbos.
Marijuana boat cruise.
Well, whatever it was.
An extreme.
Wearing the Timbos. And then you have an interesting take on the Steelers this weekend.
Yep.
And what was I going to ask you about? There was something you just talked about.
I don't know, probably Westbrook or T.O. Something you were going to kill me on.
No, it was something really good. All right.
You'll remember.
I'll just take a break back in a second. The Herd.
Sunday on Fox, 2 storied franchises face off in an epic NFC wildcard battle. Don't miss when Eli Manning and the Giants collide with Aaron Rodgers and the Red Hot Packers. Coverage begins Sunday at 4 Eastern, only on Fox.
So I remember, Nick, Wright, what I was going to tell you about T.O. I had an old news director, Mike Cutler, who's since retired, and he told me, do you like Snickers or Three Musketeers? And I said, Snickers. He goes, what if I told you the guy that created Snickers was evil and hurt children? And I said, oh. He said, how do you know he doesn't? He said, just enjoy the candy bar. Don't pretend you know your neighbor. You know the player. You know the coach. You know the politician. You have no idea what your wife is thinking right now. You're at work. He said, don't try to be a moralist or a judgment. Enjoy what you enjoy. Enjoy the art. Don't try to put a magnifying glass on the artist.
I got into it with all people with my sister, who's probably the only person in the world who I know who I actually think smarter than I am.
Yeah.
I made that point when it was coming to how we consume NFL and off the field stuff, because we do a really good job in other entertainment industries of appreciating the art, even if we detest the artist.
Michael Jackson.
That's the example I used. I believe Michael Jackson did bad things to children. I am not morally conflicted with listening to his music. I can separate those things.
Yeah.
We do a really bad job of that with sports. Like, no one has ever said, Robert Downey Jr. just got arrested. He's not allowed to make the next Iron Man for 6 months. Like, everyone would be like, no, that's an absurdity. We do it with athletes, though, all the time. The T.O. stuff is a close cousin to that, because I understand some people say, well, it affected what happened on the field. But it didn't, whatever his off-the-field stuff was, it didn't prevent him from having the second most yards ever and the third most touchdowns
ever.
And
see, that's your argument is my argument, which is, and I've never tried to be a moralist on the air. You said you listened to me for years and years. I don't listen to my tapes, but I hope I've never come off as this moralist. I've always been like pro-pot and pro-gay marriage and immigration. The reality is we all come from somewhere. They're all different places. Let's not worry too much about judging each other. Now, I sometimes have to sit up on this big empirical desk and say good guy, bad guy. But, man, we just don't. T.O. showed up
it was great.
in a Super Bowl with a broken leg. The Patriots, this is fact, called their team doctor, said, will he play? They said, hell no. He was the best player on the field.
He's the best player on the field. And, like, I get why off-field stuff, if you're a borderline guy, off-field stuff can be the tiebreaker that knocks you out or puts you in.
You're a headache.
But Favre wasn't borderline, which is why you've got to ignore the addiction issues in Atlanta.
Yeah.
You've got to ignore his refusal to mentor Aaron Rodgers, his holding Green Bay hostage, and then the pictures in New York because his play was so overwhelming. T.O.'s the same thing.
Yeah, the only non-starter for me has always been domestic violence. Now, everybody can pick their thing. Some coaches are like, drugs, you're out.
Right.
Like Bill Polian told me, I'll just take guys off the draft board if there's drugs. For me, it's domestic violence. But that's my personal choice. Other people say Tyreek Hill deserves another chance in life.
Right.
He's 19. I can understand that. But I think you and I can separate the art from the artist.